Coverage continues right now on the guilty verdicts in the former mayor's corruption trial. The U.S. attorney saying Kwame Kilpatrick didn't lead the city, he looted the city. Right now, we're joined by our legal analyst, Tom Cranber.
And also we have Todd Flood, who is Kwame Kilpatrick's attorney in his restitution case. Thank you to both of you for being here. Todd, let me start with you.
Sure.
You were in court today for the portion when they were remanded to jail, awaiting their prison sentence. Can you tell us what it was like in the courtroom at that moment and what Kwame Kilpatrick's reaction was, knowing him, too, the way you do?
It was a tough moment for Kwame. You could see the emotion. You could see that he was distressed. The defense had the burden. It's one of the few times the defense has a burden in a criminal procedure. That is, they have to show by clear and convincing evidence that Mr. Kilpatrick will return and he's not a threat. The judge, she said it was a tough call, or it was a close call for her, and she remanded him back, and you could definitely see the somber face of Kwame during that.
He certainly looked deflated, and it certainly looked more emotional than we ever had, that's for sure. Tom, I want to talk a little bit about all those charges. We talked as we were leading up to this today about how important it was for the prosecution to win all those, but this appears to be as close to a slam dunk as what you can get, is it not?
Well, I think it is. Anytime you're on the defense side, you really need to kind of win them all. On the prosecution side, not necessarily so, but I think in fairness, you'd have to call this a stunning victory for the prosecutors, no matter how you cut it, even with the count for Bernard Kilpatrick, where he was only convicted of the tax count. I think there's a lot of joy in the U.S. Attorney's Office and the federal agents tonight.
I bet. Mike Rattay said, Bobby Ferguson's attorney today, look, he was almost saying, give us time to breathe. We just heard all this, and I'm not ready to discuss appeal yet, but is it likely that an appeal, and I know I'm looking at both of you, will happen in this case? That is the next natural step, correct?
Yes. You can assure yourself they're going to read through everything, read through the transcripts, and try to pick pieces where they can appeal to a higher court and show that there was a mistake with regards to whether it was a jury instruction or something that came into evidence. But it has to be a big mistake. It can't just be a harmless error. It has to be something that's so palpable that it would sway one side or the other.
Could it be, because Tom, we talked about this earlier, this idea that the change of venue was denied, is that an appellate issue?
That's a potential appellate issue. I'm sure it'll be one that'll be looked at. As we talked earlier, too, this kind of last-minute attempt by Kwame Kilpatrick to basically fire his lawyer, indicating that perhaps he didn't trust him, I'm sure will be an issue. But I certainly agree with Todd. In the final analysis, it would have to be an issue that is substantial because, again, you're not guaranteed a perfect trial. You're guaranteed a fair trial, and that'll be the measuring tool.
But you said earlier in our continuous coverage that the percentage of that happening is pretty slim. I mean, it's like less than 10%.
It is, and the reason for that is that, again, you don't get a second bite at the apple at the Court of Appeals on an appeal. You don't get to retry the case. It's basically an examination to look to see whether or not there was some significant error that occurred that caused the trial to be unfair.
Todd, I want to ask you, this is a white-collar crime. Were you surprised that both Kwame Kilpatrick and Bobby Ferguson were remanded to jail? And one of the things that the judge said was that there was a safety issue to the community there.
You know, I was. Just being involved, I was involved in the first trial with Bobby. I am a little bit surprised that she remanded both of them back. They have substantial ties. They're under a microscope beyond belief.
One has a tether already.
Yeah, you know, and every media outlet is on them. They're going to follow their moves. So what better tether is there? And, you know, if they violated, the big stick over their head by the judge is, if they violated a bond condition, if they violated something and they fled a little bit or did something wrong, that would be a very compelling reason to go over guidelines and sentencing. So I was a bit surprised.
And we'll see if they appeal that. That's likely as well. But we thank both of you, Todd Flood and Tom Cranber, for taking the time to talk to us tonight.
Thank you.
We appreciate it.
Thank you.